The alarm bells rang across the Galactic Council's monitoring station. Officer Zephal looked up from his breakfast with tired eyes. Another distress signal. The third one this week. He floated over to his workstation, his tentacles moving across the controls with practiced ease. The signal was coming from the Kepler 442 system, a small human research colony. Zephal had seen their reports before. They grew food there. Nothing exciting. The message was broken up, coming in pieces. This is Research Station, under attack, requesting immediate humanitarian aid. The voice was human, female, scared. Zephal recorded the signal and sent it to his supervisor. This was standard procedure. Pirates hit small colonies sometimes. The council would send a medical ship to help the survivors. It happened all the time. Captain Veltar received the assignment 2 hours later. He was an Altrurian, a species known for being kind and peaceful. His ship, the Compassion's Light, was perfect for rescue missions. It had medical bays, food supplies, and rooms for refugees. Another pirate attack, his first officer said as they prepared to leave. Poor humans. They always pick the dangerous places to live. Veltar nodded sadly. Humans were strange that way. They lived on worlds that other species found too harsh. But they were good people. They shared their food-growing techniques with anyone who asked. The galaxy was better with humans in it. The Compassion's Light left port 6 hours after receiving the distress call. It would take them 4 days to reach Kepler 442. Veltar hoped some colonists were still alive by then. Meanwhile, the same distress signal reached other ears. Deep beneath the surface of Luna, Earth's moon, computers caught the transmission. The message was automatically forwarded to the Terran Defense Command. A duty officer named Lieutenant Kim Santos read it first. Santos frowned as she looked at the signal data. Something was wrong. The official council report said, pirate attack. But Santos could see more than that in the transmission data. She ran the signal through military analysis computers. Hidden in the background noise were other sounds. Weapons fire, screaming, and something else that made her blood turn cold. Ma'am, Santos called to her supervisor. You need to see this. Major Rodriguez walked over, coffee mug in hand. What is it, Lieutenant? The Kepler 442 distress call. There's more data here than the council received. Santos played the enhanced audio. A man's voice came through clearly now. They're not pirates. These are Skarn raiders. They're taking people. Oh God, they're loading them onto ships. The transmission cut to static. Major Rodriguez set down his coffee mug. His hand was shaking slightly. Are you sure about this analysis? Yes, ma'am. Computer confirms it. The Skarn hegemony is attacking our colony, and they're taking slaves. Rodriguez was already reaching for his secure communication device. Get me Admiral Chen. Emergency priority. Admiral Sarah Chen was in her quarters. When the call came in, she had been reading reports about increased Skarn activity near human space. Nothing direct. Nothing that violated treaties. Just watching. Waiting. Admiral, we have a code red situation, Major Rodriguez said. Kepler 442 is under attack by Skarn forces. They're taking colonists as slaves. Chen was quiet for a long moment. Kepler 442 had 847 people, families, children, old people who wanted to spend their final years helping humanity grow food among the stars. How long ago? Chen asked. Signal is 18 hours old. Travel time means the attack happened 22 hours ago. Chen closed her eyes. 22 hours. The Skarn moved fast when they took slaves. The colonists could already be halfway to Skarn space by now. What's the council sending? She asked. Medical frigate, the Compassion's Light, ETA 4 days. Chen almost laughed, but there was no humor in it. A medical ship, against Skarn raiders. It was like sending a nurse to stop a war. Major, I want you to activate Protocol 7. Rodriguez went pale. Protocol 7 was the emergency response for extinction-level threats to human colonies. It had never been used before. Ma'am, are you sure? Protocol 7 means... I know what it means. Chen cut him off. The Skarn just made the biggest mistake in their species' history. They attacked our people. They took our families. And they expect us to negotiate. Chen stood up and walked to her window. She could see Earth from here, beautiful blue Earth. The world that had given birth to a species that survived ice ages, plagues, wars, and nuclear weapons. The world that taught humans how to fight, how to survive, how to never give up. Major, send the activation codes. Full mobilization. Every ship, every crew, every weapon we have. Admiral, that's the entire Terran battle fleet. Yes, it is. Chen turned back to face Rodriguez on the screen. The Skarn want to play war games with a Deathworld species. Let's show them what that means. As the communication ended, Chen began making calls. First to the fleet commanders, then to the weapons development teams. Finally, to the Special Projects Division. Director Walsh, this is Admiral Chen. I need Project Lazarus ships ready for combat in 6 hours. Admiral, those are still experimental. We haven't finished testing. Director, in 6 hours, either those ships are ready to fight or I'm finding someone who can make them ready. Do you understand? Yes, ma'am. 6 hours. Across human space, alarms began to sound. Not the gentle chimes of exploration ships, but the harsh klaxons of war vessels. Ships that humanity had built in secret, hoping never to use them. The Dreadnought, unbroken, powered up its fusion cores. Battlecruisers with names like Righteous Fury and Iron Covenant began loading weapons that could crack planets. Experimental vessels from humanity's darkest research projects came online for the first time. Captain Veltar, still 3 days away from Kepler 442, had no idea what was coming. He was preparing medical supplies and planning refugee accommodations. His biggest worry was whether they had enough food for the survivors. He didn't know that behind him, moving through hyperspace at impossible speeds, came an armada that would rewrite the galaxy's understanding of warfare. 200 ships of war, crewed by a species that had been pretending to be peaceful explorers. The Skarn expected the Council to send diplomats. They expected negotiations, treaties, maybe a small fine. They had no idea they had just awakened, something that had been sleeping for 300 years. Something that remembered every war humans had ever fought, every battle they had ever won, every enemy they had ever faced. The Deathworlders were coming, and they were very, very angry. Admiral, Shen recorded one final message before the fleet jumped to hyperspace. It would be transmitted to every human colony, every exploration ship, every research station in known space. To all human personnel, the colony at Kepler 442 has been attacked by Skarn slavers. Our people have been taken. Our families have been harmed. This aggression will not stand. The Terran Defense Force is responding with full military action. The age of depending on others to protect us is over. We are humans. We are Deathworlders, and we do not abandon our own. The message ended, and the fleet jumped to hyperspace. The galaxy was about to learn why Earth was classified as a Class 12 Deathworld. The Terran Defense Command bunker was built deep under Luna's surface. It had been designed to survive planet-killing weapons. Today, it hummed with activity that hadn't been seen in 3 centuries. Admiral Sarah Chen stood in the main command center, watching display screens that showed human ships across the galaxy. Each screen showed vessels powering up, crews reporting for duty, weapons being loaded. Status report, Chen called out. Battle Group Alpha is ready for departure. 27 ships including the Dreadnought unbroken, reported Commander Torres. Battle Group Beta, 31 ships ready. The Iron Covenant requests permission to load antimatter torpedoes, said another officer. Chen nodded. Permission granted. What about the experimental ships? Director Walsh appeared on a communication screen. His face was covered in sweat. Admiral, Project Lazarus ships are online. We managed to get 12 vessels ready. But I have to warn you, the weapons systems are untested in real combat. Director, we're about to test them against the Skarn. If they don't work, we'll know soon enough. Chen walked to the main tactical display. It showed the route to Kepler 442. 4 days of travel for a normal ship. But human military vessels weren't normal. They had been built with technology that the galaxy didn't know existed. Admiral, called Lieutenant Santos, who had discovered the real distress message. We're receiving additional intelligence from our deep space monitoring posts. What kind of intelligence? Skarn ship movements. It looks like they have a major base in the Proxima Nebula. That's probably where they're taking our people. Chen studied the data. The Proxima Nebula was 2 days beyond Kepler 442. If the Skarn were using it as a slave processing center, the colonists might still be there. Change of plans, Chen announced. Primary objective is still Kepler 442, but I want fast attack groups ready to hit the Nebula base. We're going to rescue our people and destroy their entire operation. Major Rodriguez approached with a datapad. Admiral, I have the final fleet numbers. 203 ships total. It's the largest human military force ever assembled. Chen looked at the numbers. Dreadnoughts, battle cruisers, destroyers, fast attack craft. Enough firepower to level entire solar systems, all because 847 colonists had been taken by slavers. Major, do you think we're overreacting? Rodriguez was quiet for a moment. Ma'am, I have a daughter. She's 8 years old. If someone took her and planned to sell her as a slave. He paused. No, Admiral. I don't think we're overreacting at all. Chen nodded. Signal all ships. We jump to hyperspace in 1 hour. Across the solar system, human vessels began their final preparations. But these weren't the peaceful exploration ships that other species knew. These were the weapons humanity had built in secret, hoping never to need them. The dreadnought, Unbroken, was 3 kilometers long. Its hull was made from materials that could survive inside a star. Its main weapons could destroy entire fleets. Captain Maria Santos commanded it with a crew of 5,000. All systems ready, Captain, her first officer reported. Crew status? Fully prepared. The crew wants to know, are we really going to war? Captain Santos looked at her crew. She had trained with these people for years. They had practiced for this moment without ever believing it would come. Yes, we're going to war. The Skarn took our people. They plan to sell them as slaves. They think humans are weak because we prefer peace. She paused. They're about to learn why that preference was a choice, not a weakness. The battlecruiser Righteous Fury prepared alongside the Unbroken. Commander Zhang Wei reviewed his weapon status. Plasma cannons, missile systems, and something new. Gravity weapons that could tear apart enemy ships at the molecular level. Commander, are the gravity weapons really safe to use? His weapons officer asked. Safe for us, deadly for them. We tested them on asteroids. They turned solid rock into dust in seconds. And if we use them on enemy ships? Zhang smiled coldly. There won't be enough left to bury. The experimental ships from Project Lazarus were different. They had been built using technology reverse-engineered from humanity's darkest period of warfare. Technology that the galaxy didn't know existed because humans had hidden it after their last great war. Captain Julia Harper commanded the experimental vessel Shadow of Terra. Her ship was smaller than the dreadnoughts, but it carried weapons that bent the laws of physics. Status on the quantum disruptors? She asked. Ready for deployment. The theoretical models suggest they'll pass right through enemy shields and armor. And what happens then? The target ship's atoms forget how to hold together. Harper nodded, grimly. During humanity's final world war, before they reached the stars, they had created weapons too terrible to use. Weapons that could destroy reality itself. Those weapons had been locked away for 3 centuries. Today they were unlocked. Admiral Chen received reports from each battle group. All ships ready, all crews prepared, all weapons loaded and armed. Admiral, called the communications officer. Message from Earth Central Command. President Williams wants to speak with you. The president's face appeared on screen. She looked tired. The weight of commanding humanity's response to its first interstellar war was heavy. Admiral, the United Earth Council has voted full authorization for military action against the Skarn hegemony. Rules of engagement are flexible. Understood, Madam President. We won't disappoint you. Sarah, bring our people home. And make sure the galaxy understands that attacking human colonies has consequences. The communication ended. Chen looked around the command center. Every person there knew what was about to happen. Humanity was about to reveal its true nature to the galaxy. All ships report ready, Admiral, Commander Torres announced. Chen walked to the main communication console. She opened a channel to every ship in the fleet. 200,000 human military personnel listened to her words. People of the fleet, today we go to war. Not because we want to, but because we must. The Skarn hegemony has taken our people. They plan to sell our families as slaves. They believe humans are weak because we choose peace over conflict. She paused, looking at the tactical display showing their route to Kepler 442. They're about to learn that Earth is classified as a death world for a reason. We survived ice ages, plagues, nuclear war, and extinction events. We reached the stars not because we're peaceful, but because we're survivors. And survivors never abandon their own. The channel closed. Chen gave the final order. All ships, jump to hyperspace. Target, Kepler 442 system, maximum speed. One by one, the ships of humanity's war fleet disappeared into hyperspace. They moved at speeds that would shatter every record for interstellar travel. Technology that humanity had kept secret was finally unleashed. Behind them, Earth continued its orbit around the sun. A blue world that looked peaceful from space. But appearances could be deceiving. Earth had given birth to a species that knew how to fight, how to survive, and how to win. The galaxy was about to meet the real humanity, not the explorers and researchers they thought they knew, but the Deathworlders who had conquered their own planet before reaching for the stars. Captain Veltar, still 2 days away in his medical frigate, continued preparing for a simple rescue mission. He had no idea that an armada of war was racing toward the same destination. The Skarn would expect negotiations. They would expect the Council to offer tribute or territory in exchange for the slaves. They would not expect the fury of an awakened Deathworld species. The countdown to humanity's first interstellar war had begun. Captain Veltar felt his stomach twist as the Compassion's light dropped out of hyperspace. The Kepler 442 system spread out before them, but something was terribly wrong. Where the human research station should have been, there was only burning wreckage floating in space. Pieces of buildings, destroyed equipment, and worse things that Veltar tried not to think about. "Captain, I'm detecting multiple ships in the system," his sensor officer reported. "They're not human vessels." Veltar looked at the tactical display. 7 large ships hung near the destroyed colony. Their design was angular and aggressive. Skarn vessels. "Open a communication channel," Veltar ordered. "This is Captain Veltar of the Galactic Council vessel Compassion's Light. Please respond." The reply came quickly. A harsh, growling voice filled the bridge. "This is War Master Crux of the Skarn Hegemony. You are not welcome here, Council ship." Veltar kept his voice calm and diplomatic. "War Master, we received a distress call from this system. We're here to provide humanitarian aid to any survivors." Crux laughed, a sound like grinding metal. "Survivors? The human terrorists who attacked our peaceful trading mission? There are no survivors. We defended ourselves according to galactic law." "Terrorists?" Veltar's medical officer whispered. "But the humans here were agricultural researchers." Veltar activated his ship's sensors, scanning the debris field. What he saw made him feel sick. The wreckage showed signs of weapons fire, but not from human weapons. Only Skarn energy signatures. "War Master, our sensors indicate that human vessels did not fire any weapons. How do you explain this?" "Your sensors are wrong, Council Captain. The humans fired first. We have salvage rights to everything in this system. Leave now, or face the consequences." Veltar closed the communication channel. His crew looked at him with worried expressions. Everyone knew what had really happened here. The Skarn had attacked innocent colonists and were now covering it up. "Captain, what do we do?" his first officer asked. Before Veltar could answer, his sensor officer gasped. "Captain, massive hyperspace distortions detected. Something big is coming." The space around Kepler 442 began to ripple. Not the small distortion of a single ship, but something enormous. The kind of readings that suggested an entire fleet was about to arrive. "How many ships?" Veltar asked. I can't count them all, Captain. The readings are off our scales." War Master Crux had detected the same readings. On his command ship, the Bloody Fang, he was also trying to understand what was coming. "Report." Crux snarled at his sensor operator. "War Master, the hyperspace signatures suggest over 200 vessels. Size classifications range from destroyer to something we don't have names for." Crux's blood ran cold. 200 ships? No species in the galaxy had fleets that large. Not even the Council's entire peacekeeping force was that big. Who would send such a force? He wondered aloud. His question was answered when the ships began to drop out of hyperspace. First came the smaller vessels, destroyers and cruisers that were still larger than Crux's biggest warships. They moved with perfect precision, taking up positions around the system like pieces on a chessboard. Then came the battle cruisers. Massive ships that bristled with weapons. Their hull designs were strange, sleek, but aggressive, like predators built for hunting. Finally, the dreadnoughts arrived. Crux had never seen ships so large. The biggest one was over 3 kilometers long, its hull black as space itself. Weapons ports lined its sides like the scales of some enormous space dragon. "By the gods," whispered Crux's first officer. "What are those ships?" Before anyone could answer, every human ship in the fleet began transmitting the same identification signal: Terran Defense Force. Humans. The peaceful explorers who grew food and asked permission before mining asteroids. The species that had never built warships, never threatened anyone, never showed any signs of military power. except they had. This fleet proved that humans had been building weapons of war while pretending to be farmers and scientists. Captain Veltar watched in amazement as the human fleet deployed around the system. Each ship moved to an exact position, creating overlapping fields of fire that covered every possible escape route. It was the most precise military maneuver he had ever seen. Captain, his communications officer called out. We're being hailed by the lead human vessel. Put it on screen. A human woman appeared on the bridge display. She wore a military uniform that Veltar had never seen before. Her expression was cold, controlled anger. This is Admiral Sarah Chen of the Terran Defense Force. Captain Veltar, please move your ship to a safe distance. What happens next is not your responsibility. Admiral, I am here under Galactic Council authority to provide humanitarian aid. Captain, with respect, the time for humanitarian aid was 4 days ago. We're here for justice. Chen's voice carried a weight that made Veltar's crew step back from their stations. On the Bloody Fang, War Master Crux was trying to contact his own superiors, but the human ships were jamming all long-range communications. He was cut off from the rest of the hegemony. His tactical officer provided a grim report. War Master, the human fleet outguns us by approximately 50-1. Our weapons can't penetrate their ship designs, and their positioning makes escape impossible. Crux had been in hundreds of battles. He knew when he was outmatched, but Skarn pride demanded he try to bluff his way out. He opened a channel to the human fleet. Human Commander, I am War Master Crux of the Skarn hegemony. You are interfering with a legitimate salvage operation. Withdraw immediately or face the consequences. Admiral Chen's reply came across all frequencies. War Master Crux, you have attacked and enslaved citizens of the Terran Federation. You have 60 seconds to surrender unconditionally and prepare to be boarded. Any attempt to resist will result in the destruction of your fleet. You dare threaten the Skarn hegemony? We are warriors. You are nothing but farmers and miners. Chen's response was quiet but carried across space like a death sentence. We are humans, War Master. We are from Earth, a Class 12 death world, and you have made the last mistake of your life. The communication channel closed. For 59 seconds, space around Kepler 442 was silent, except for the hum of charging weapons. Crux made his choice. All ships attack. Show these mammals what Skarn warriors can do. The Skarn fleet opened fire with everything they had. Energy weapons, missiles, and plasma cannons lit up space with deadly light. It was enough firepower to destroy a space station. The human fleet absorbed the attack without taking any damage. Their shields didn't even flicker. Admiral Chen's voice came across all frequencies one final time. You chose poorly, War Master. What happened next would be studied by military academies for centuries. The human fleet didn't just return fire. They demonstrated technologies that the galaxy didn't know existed. Weapons that ignored shields and armor turned Skarn battleships into expanding clouds of gas. Gravity manipulators crushed enemy vessels, like tin cans. Energy beams that burned hotter than stars cut through hulls like paper. But the most frightening thing wasn't the weapons. It was the precision. Every shot was calculated to disable rather than destroy. The humans weren't trying to kill the Skarn crews. They were capturing them alive. Captain Veltar watched in stunned silence as 7 Skarn warships were reduced to drifting hulks in less than 12 minutes. Not one human ship was even scratched. Dear gods, his medical officer whispered. How did they hide this? How did we not know they had such power? Admiral Chen answered that question when she addressed both the Skarn survivors and Captain Veltar. For 300 years, humanity has followed the galaxy's rules. We sent diplomats instead of soldiers. We built research stations instead of military bases. We trusted others to keep the peace while we focused on exploration and discovery. Her voice grew harder. The attack on Kepler 442 has shown us the cost of that trust. Our people are dead or enslaved because we believed civilization meant we could put down our weapons. That belief was naive. The human fleet began deploying boarding parties to the disabled Skarn ships. Marines in power armor that made them look like walking tanks moved through the enemy vessels with practiced efficiency. Captain Veltar received another communication from Admiral Chen. Captain, we've found evidence that the Skarn have taken our colonists to a slave processing facility in the Proxima Nebula. We would appreciate your assistance in caring for any survivors we rescue. Of course, Admiral. But may I ask, how long has Earth been preparing for this kind of military action? Chen was quiet for a moment. Captain, Earth never stopped preparing for war. We just hoped we'd never need to fight one again. The Skarn have proven that hope was foolish. As the human fleet began to move toward the Proxima Nebula, Captain Veltar realized he was witnessing the end of an era. The galaxy had just learned that one of its most peaceful species was actually its most dangerous. The humans were going to rescue their people, and they were going to make sure that what happened at Kepler 442 never happened again. The Proxima Nebula had hidden the Skarn slave operation for 50 years. Thick clouds of gas and dust made sensors useless beyond a few kilometers. It was the perfect place to process captured beings before selling them across the galaxy. Admiral Chen studied the tactical displays as the human fleet approached the nebula's edge. Intelligence gathered from the captured Skarn ships showed a massive installation inside. Processing centers, holding pens, and worst of all, auction blocks where sentient beings were sold like cattle. Admiral, we have the station layout. From the Skarn computers, Commander Torres reported. It's bigger than we thought. The main facility can hold up to 50,000 prisoners. Chen felt her jaw tighten. 50,000. And they had built it right under the galaxy's nose while the Council talked about peace and cooperation. What about defenses? Heavy. Multiple battle stations, minefields, and at least 30 warships. But Admiral, there's something else you need to see. Torres transferred data to Chen's personal display. Lists of names, species, and purchase prices. The records showed that the Skarn had been taking people from dozens of worlds. Not just humans, but anyone they thought would make good slaves. How long has this been going on? Chen asked. According to the records, at least 50 years, maybe longer. Chen closed her eyes. 50 years of people disappearing while the galaxy's peacekeeping forces filed reports and held committee meetings. 50 years of families torn apart while diplomats talked about the importance of non-interference. Signal the fleet. We go in fast and hard. Primary objective is rescuing prisoners. Secondary objective is destroying this entire operation so it can never be rebuilt. The human fleet entered the nebula like a spear thrust. The lead ships used advanced sensors that could see through the gas clouds. Behind them came the main battle force, weapons charged and ready. The Skarn didn't expect anyone to find their hidden base. When proximity alarms started screaming across their command center, Base Commander Vrak thought it was a false alarm. Sir, we have multiple contacts approaching the facility. Large vessels, unknown configuration, his sensor operator reported. Impossible. No one can navigate the nebula without our guide beacons. Sir, the contacts are moving in perfect formation. They know exactly where we are. Vrak looked at his tactical display. Over 200 ships were approaching through the nebula at high speed, ships larger than anything in his defensive fleet. Sound general quarters. Launch all fighters. Send a distress signal to Hegemony Command. But the humans were already jamming all communications. The Skarn base was cut off from outside help, just like their ships at Kepler 442 had been. Admiral Chen opened a communication channel to the Skarn base. This is Admiral Sarah Chen of the Terran Defense Force. You are harboring stolen citizens of multiple species, including humans from the Kepler 442 colony. Surrender immediately and prepare to release all prisoners. Commander Vrak snarled as he replied. Unknown vessels, you are trespassing in hegemony space. Withdraw or be destroyed. Commander, you have 30 seconds to begin prisoner release. Procedures. After that, we will take the base by force. Vrak laughed. 30 seconds? Do you know what this facility is? We have defenses that can stop an entire fleet. Chen's voice was ice cold when she replied, Commander, you're about to learn why Earth is classified as a death world. The 30 seconds passed in silence. Then the human fleet opened fire. The Skarn had built their defenses to stop conventional weapons. Energy shields, armored battle stations, and overlapping fields of fire that could destroy anything that came close. But human weapons weren't conventional. The experimental ships from Project Lazarus fired first. Quantum disruptors passed through, the Skarn shields like they weren't there. When the beams hit their targets, the enemy battle stations simply ceased to exist. One moment they were there, the next moment there was empty space. What kind of weapons are those? Vrak whispered, as he watched his outer defenses disappear. His tactical officer's voice was shaking. Unknown technology, sir. Our shields have no effect. The human battlecruisers followed up with gravity weapons. Invisible forces reached out and crushed Skarn ships like empty cans. The lucky crews died quickly when their hulls collapsed. The unlucky ones had time to scream. But the most terrifying attack came from the dreadnought Unbroken. Captain Santos had loaded her main guns with something the weapons manual called stellar fire. plasma heated to the same temperature as the core of a star. When the EIE, unbroken, fired a beam of pure starfire cut through the nebula. Everything it touched, ships, stations, asteroids, was instantly vaporized. The beam was so bright that it lit up the entire nebula for several seconds. The Skarn defensive fleet lasted exactly 17 minutes, 30 warships, and 12 battle stations were reduced to scattered debris. Not one human ship was even damaged. Commander Vrak was trapped in his command center as human boarding shuttles landed on the station. His remaining guards were falling back on all fronts as armored human marines advanced through the corridors. "Sir, we should surrender," his aide suggested. "Never. We are Skarn. We do not surrender to lesser species." But as explosions shook the station and the sounds of battle grew closer, Vrak began to understand that humans weren't a lesser species at all. In the prisoner-holding areas, thousands of captives heard the sounds of fighting. They had given up hope long ago. People taken by the Skarn were never rescued. The galaxy's peacekeeping forces never came this far into lawless space. Maria Santos was a human from Kepler 442. She had been captured 3 days ago and was scheduled to be sold tomorrow. When the explosion started, she thought the Skarn were just fighting among themselves. Then the cell block doors exploded inward, and armored figures rushed in. For a moment, Maria thought it was more Skarn guards. Then she saw the symbol on their armor, a blue world surrounded by stars. "This is Sergeant Williams' Terran Marines," the lead figure announced. "We're here to take you home." Maria started crying, not from fear but from relief. Somehow, impossibly, humans had found them. Humans had come to rescue their own. All across the station, similar scenes played out. Marine squads broke down doors and freed prisoners of dozens of species. Some had been captives for years. Others, like the humans from Kepler 442, were newly taken. Admiral Chen coordinated the rescue from her command ship. Status report from all boarding teams. Sector 7 secured. Approximately 3,000 prisoners freed so far. Sector 12 secured. We found the auction records. Admiral, you need to see this. What is it? The Skarn weren't just selling slaves. They were selling people to be used for medical experiments. Some buyers wanted live subjects for weapons testing. Chen's hands clenched into fists. Not just slavery, but torture and murder. The Skarn had been running a factory for producing suffering. "Admiral, we're finding children," another team reported. Kids as young as 5 years old. Some of them don't even remember their homeworlds. That was the final straw. Chen opened a fleet-wide communication channel. "All units, change of mission parameters. This facility is to be completely destroyed. Nothing remains. Understood?" "Understood, Admiral," came the replies from every ship. As the last prisoners were evacuated, the human fleet prepared to erase the slave base from existence. But first, Admiral Chen had one more message to send. She opened a recording device and spoke directly to the surviving Skarn personnel. "To the leadership of the Skarn hegemony. My name is Admiral Sarah Chen of the Terran Defense Force. Your people attacked our colony at Kepler 442. They enslaved our citizens and brought them here to be sold like animals." She paused, looking at images of freed prisoners being cared for by human medical teams. "You believed humans were weak because we preferred peace to war. You were wrong. We preferred peace because we knew what we were capable of when we chose war. You have now seen a small demonstration of that capability." The recording continued. "This facility and everyone who ran it has been eliminated. But we're not finished. We have the records from your computers. We know where your other bases are, we know who your buyers are, we know everything." Chen's voice grew colder. "The Terran Defense Force is hereby declaring war on the Skarn hegemony and all species that participate in the slave trade. We will find every base, free every prisoner, and destroy every ship involved in this crime against civilization." She ended the recording and gave the final order. "All ships fire at will, complete destruction authorized." What happened next lit up the entire Proxima Nebula. Weapons that could crack planets turned the slave facility into atomic particles. The explosion was so bright that it could be seen from neighboring star systems. When the light faded, there was nothing left. No base, no ships, no trace that the Skarn operation had ever existed. Only empty space and the rescued prisoners heading home aboard human ships. Captain Veltar, who had followed the human fleet to document the rescue, sent his report to the Galactic Council. "The humans have capabilities we never imagined. They are not the peaceful explorers we believed them to be. They are warriors who chose to hide their weapons until they were needed." His final line would be quoted in history, books for centuries. "We thought we knew humanity, we were wrong, and the galaxy will never be the same." 6 months after the destruction of the Skarn slave base, the galaxy had changed in ways no one could have predicted. The Galactic Council chambers on Axiom Station buzzed with nervous energy as representatives from 847 species gathered for an emergency session. Ambassador Kexlan of the Altrurian delegation shifted uncomfortably in his seat. The humans had requested to address the full assembly, and everyone knew what that meant. Since Kepler 442, human fleets had struck 17 more Skarn installations. Each attack was surgical, precise, and utterly devastating. The Skarn hegemony, which had terrorized the galaxy for centuries, was falling apart. Their leadership was either dead or in hiding. Their slave trade network had been completely destroyed, and it had all been accomplished by a species that the Council had considered peaceful farmers and scientists. "The session will come to order," announced Council Speaker Velnara. "We recognize Admiral Sarah Chen of the Terran Defense Force." Chen walked to the central podium with measured steps. She wore the same military uniform she had worn during the battle at Kepler 442. Her expression was calm, but everyone in the chamber could feel the controlled power behind her words. "Honored delegates," Chen began. "6 months ago, my people sent a distress call from Kepler 442. We asked for help. We asked for justice. We asked for the galaxy's protection under the laws of civilization." She paused, letting her words sink in. "What we received was a medical frigate with good intentions, but no real power to help. While brave Captain Veltar did his best, 847 human colonists were enslaved because the galaxy's peacekeeping system is designed to treat symptoms, not cure diseases." Murmurs rippled through the assembly. Some delegates nodded in agreement. Others looked uncomfortable at the criticism. "In response to this failure," Chen continued, "the Terran Federation has taken independent action. We have destroyed the Skarn slave network. We have freed over 40,000 prisoners from dozens of species. We have eliminated a threat that the Council has ignored for half a century." Ambassador Kexlan stood up. "Admiral Chen, while we appreciate your intervention, the Council is concerned about the methods used. The level of military force deployed seems excessive for a rescue operation." Chen's smile was cold. "Excessive? Ambassador, let me share some numbers with you. In the past 50 years, the Skarn hegemony has enslaved over 200,000 sentient beings. They have sold children for medical experiments. They have tortured prisoners for entertainment." She activated a holographic display showing the evidence recovered from Skarn bases. The images were horrific. Beings of all species trapped in cages being sold at auctions, subjected to unspeakable cruelties. During those same 50 years, the Galactic Council filed 1,247 formal complaints about Skarn activities. You held 89 committee hearings. You passed 34 strongly worded resolutions. You accomplished nothing. The chamber fell silent. The evidence was overwhelming, and everyone knew it. "So let me be clear about something," Chen said, her voice carrying to every corner of the vast chamber. "The Terran Federation is withdrawing from the current galactic peacekeeping system. We will no longer rely on others to protect our people, our friends, or our values." The announcement hit the assembly like a shockwave. Ambassador Kexlan's face went pale. "Admiral, surely you don't mean to abandon civilized cooperation?" "On the contrary, Ambassador. We're founding a new form of cooperation. The Terran Federation hereby announces the formation of the Deathworld Alliance, a mutual defense pact open to any species willing to defend innocent life with actual force, not empty diplomacy." Chen activated another holographic display, this one showing a star chart. 12 systems were highlighted in blue. "I am pleased to announce that 12 species have already joined the alliance. The Corvan Empire, the Therian Republic, the Draconis Confederation, and 9 others. These are species that understand a simple truth. Sometimes violence is the only answer to violence." The delegates began talking among themselves. The species Chen had named were all considered aggressive or militaristic by Council standards. They had been marginalized in galactic politics because they refused to embrace pure pacifism. "What does this alliance intend to do?" asked Ambassador Velnox of the Peaceful Worlds Coalition. "Simple," Chen replied. "We will do what the Council cannot. We will actively hunt down slavers, pirates, and anyone else who preys on innocent life. We will not wait for committee meetings or diplomatic solutions. When evil acts, we will respond with overwhelming force." She paused and looked directly at the Council speaker. "We tried your way for 3 centuries. We sent diplomats instead of soldiers. We built research stations instead of military bases. We trusted in the goodness of civilization to protect the innocent. Her voice hardened. Kepler 442 showed us the cost of that trust. Never again. Admiral Chen activated one final display, a map showing human fleet positions across the galaxy. The delegates gasped as they realized the scope of human military deployment. As we speak, human battle groups are patrolling 17 sectors that the Council has deemed too dangerous for peacekeeping operations. We are hunting down the remaining Skarn war criminals. We are investigating reports of other slave trading networks. We are doing the job that should have been done decades ago. Ambassador Kexelan tried one more time. Admiral, this path leads only to more violence. Surely there must be a peaceful solution. Chen looked at him with something that might have been pity. Ambassador, there was a peaceful solution. It was called Don't Enslave Innocent People. The Skarn rejected that solution when they attacked our colony. She turned to address the full assembly one final time. To those species that prefer diplomacy to action, we wish you well. Continue your committee meetings and your strongly worded resolutions. But when your people cry for help, don't expect others to answer. We did that once. We won't make that mistake again. Chen walked back to her seat, leaving the assembly in stunned silence. The galaxy's political order had just been shattered by a species that most delegates had considered harmless. 3 weeks later, Captain Veltar sat in his quarters, aboard the Compassion's Light, writing his final report on the Kepler 442 incident. He had been there from the beginning. He had watched the human fleet arrive. He had seen what they were capable of when pushed too far. His communication system chimed. A message from Earth, from Admiral Chen herself. Captain Veltar, I wanted to thank you personally for your courage at Kepler 442. You came to help when you thought no one else would. That kind of bravery should be honored. The message continued. I also want to extend an invitation. The Deathworld Alliance is not just for military species. We need doctors, diplomats, and peacekeepers who understand that sometimes peace must be defended with strength. If you're interested in joining a peacekeeping force that actually keeps peace, we would be honored to have you. Veltar stared at the message for a long time. His entire life had been built around the Council's philosophy of passive peacekeeping, but he had seen the results of that philosophy at Kepler 442. He had watched innocent people suffer while he filled out forms and followed procedures. Maybe it was time for a change. Across the galaxy, similar conversations were taking place. Species that had been marginalized by the Council for being too aggressive were finding new respect as Alliance members. Military commanders who had been told to stand down and let diplomats handle threats were finally being allowed to do their jobs. And in the darkest corners of space, where slavers and pirates had operated without fear for centuries, new rumors were spreading. Rumors of ships that appeared without warning, crews that showed no mercy to those who preyed on the innocent, and weapons that could turn entire fleets into cosmic dust. The galaxy had spent centuries believing that civilization meant the strong would restrain themselves to protect the weak. That had worked, as long as everyone agreed to the rules. But some species had never agreed to those rules. They had taken advantage of civilized restraint to commit unspeakable crimes. And for 50 years, the good species of the galaxy had let them do it rather than abandon their principles. The humans had shown another way. Civilization didn't mean the strong should be weak. It meant the strong should protect the weak, with force if necessary. Admiral Chen sat in her command center on Luna, looking at reports from Alliance fleets across the galaxy. Former slaves were being reunited with families they thought they'd never see again. Pirate bases that had operated for decades were being destroyed. Species that had lived in fear were learning to feel safe again. But she knew this was just the beginning. The galaxy was vast, and there would always be those who chose to prey on others. The Alliance would need to be strong, vigilant, and ready to act when civilization was threatened. Her communication officer approached with a data pad. Admiral, we're receiving reports of possible slave activity in the Outer Rim territories. 3 Alliance species request assistance. Chen looked at the star charts one more time. So much space, so many worlds, so many people who needed protection. Signal. The fleet, she said. The Deathworlders are moving out. Somewhere in the darkness between stars, evil waited. But it was no longer safe to wait alone. The galaxy's Deathworlders were coming, and they remembered very well how to hunt.